Thank you, everyone. All right. So on the timeline, we were talking about the July beginning the collecting the target area school data, the budget, and now we should be looking at the applicant and community support section because you'll have to communicate even within your own agency or your institution, the folks that are hosting you. You need to start reminding them of the support that you will need, and it's very timely to do that budget minus the carryover. So it'll really let you know how much support you really truly need. And then we have our target school folks. They might have MOUs they have to get. And you're probably trying to get that. Maybe those of you that are on annual MOUs and agreements might be in the process of doing that. Remember, you're supposed to have these letters of commitment in place from your institution, your agency, target schools, and community agencies. If you do not have, if you don't have, you want to make sure you have those in place before you send in your proposal, because a lot of people were forgetting. And this is actually what we're running into when we do our compliance assessments, that a lot of folks, we read the proposal and it says we have these letters of commitment on file in the director's office, and then we ask to see them during a compliance assessment and they're not there. So we're having to scramble around to do that. So these take a while. So does getting need section quotes, comments, feedback, qualitative information from your target school folks and also your target area folks for EOC. There is an EOC timeline in the Google Drive as well. I'm just focused here on the Talent Search one, but those take a minute, okay? And we've uploaded since last week in the EOC and the Talent Search Google Drive a set of sample quotes from the target schools or from the community and it's also linked to when it would be appropriate to bring these up in the needs section. So not only are you giving the readers the quantitative data, but then you kind of give them the why or a little bit of the qualitative feeling sense, telling the story together from quoting folks in the target schools, folks from the target schools or from the target area. All right. You don't want to make an editorial and as a writer, go ahead and put in your assessment of the situation. It's more impactful and it also makes more sense when you can cite someone else saying it for you. Okay. That takes a while. So you want to get started on that. Then, in September, I would recommend drafting the quality of personnel section based on your budget. Updating or drafting that plan of operation based on the budget and personnel section. You want to go back constantly, be reviewing the data collected and draft the needs section, including those qualitative comments and quotes to tell the story. So it's not completely boring charts, but a little bit of information from people that work and live there to solidify the need. Then you want to draft in October, I would say, work on your evaluation plan and the logic model. Wrap up your data collection with the quotes and survey results, survey from the target school folks or the target area. If you did a little focus group or a mini assessment, a SWOT assessment of what's going on in the target area, you want to finalize that applicant and community support section that you started earlier and finalize the quality of personnel. November, spend finalizing these sections. Again, they're all going to be separate so far, and perhaps you can update the budget section based on if we got anything different or any new guidance, which is coming out all the time for the budget. And then look what we're working on almost last is that objective section, okay? Then in December, finalizing the needs section, finalize the objective section. And if the RFP comes out no later than December 1st, maybe it's December 1st, maybe, big maybe, then I'll finally know what the darn CPPs are. So I'm also going to double check on the objectives, the wording, and the program profile form that's going to be somewhere located in the middle of the program application. I want to double check that the wording for that form, on that form for the objectives has not changed from what we have listed in our old objective section, the wording. You want to double check it or just go ahead and copy and paste from the new program profile form, the wording to put into your objective section. And then finally, we'll have some concrete information about the CPPs. If we find out beforehand, of course, we're going to be all over that, but nothing's final until it's in that final grant application. So then we'll start drafting the CPPs and then trying to figure out if it's appropriate or going to be a requirement to make sure that it's addressed within the narrative, within the separate narrative. Okay, and that's when we'll realize, here we're in January, finalizing the proposal narrative, finalizing the CPPs, the table of contents, the abstract, the GEPA program profile, program assurances, and those other darn submission documents. And also, we're wanting to make sure that we're finally looking at formatting, number of pages we're allowed to have, and that sort of thing. But you see, that kind of comes toward the end. And that's just to give you a timeline. And this infographic here that Donna and Leah have worked on are there in the Google Drive under the Talent Search proposal folder, and there's one under the EOC folder. Okay, does anyone have any questions? I think we might have had something pop up here. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to get to it. Here's a question. Any word on the talent search again? No, Stephen. No. I know last Friday seems to be the day. I believe they sent out letters, but I don't know. I forgot to ask if any Upward Bounds received their GANs last week. I don't think so. I think they just sent out cancellation letters, and that is something I did want to talk about with y'all here in a minute. I don't know, just thinking out loud that maybe Friday they'll send out any possible talent search cancellation letters. But let us know in the chat if you have an Upward Bound and if you've received your GAN already. I don't think anybody except SSS has received the GANs.
Yeah, I've not heard of any other program receiving their GAN except for SSS.
Yeah, so SSS, Stephen said our SSS received their GAN last Friday. And okay, so it must have been banked or something, because I thought they sent all the continuation ones, their GANs a couple of weeks ago, maybe, because it was due on the SSS budgets were due on Friday, for those that had received a GAN. So I'm thinking if maybe you received your GAN just this Friday was maybe because it was a banked year, maybe it was a banked year. They had already a year of funding, so there wasn't a rush. I don't think it was anybody in the funding cycle yet, Teresa. I don't think they've released that yet. So maybe it's a banked year. I'm not sure. But most of them, yeah. So it's right now what I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, I'm thinking that all the only TRIO folks that have received their GANs for 25-26 are the SSS folks, right?
That's correct. Yep.
So we're still waiting to hear. So let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, come on, y'all. Bring on the questions. Get some free advice. Here. Anyone? Nada. Okay. I will be logging off here at 12:45. We're going to end it a little early because I have another meeting I have to get to. So I apologize for that. But let me take it over to here. Let's have a conversation. And Teresa, you helped me with this. And what I wanted to do is share this here. This is something here that, make sure I'm presenting.
While you're doing it,
yes, go ahead, Teresa.
There's a question. Did they only send out cancellations for Upward Bound on Friday? Or were there other TRIO programs that received cancellations?
I heard, Teresa, that it was just 3 Upward Bounds that got it. And the 7 of the 12 training grants, which I think you were aware of, right, Teresa?
Right. Yes. Correct.
Mm-hmm. So training grants, do you mind explaining to folks in case they don't know what the training grants are?
Okay. So basically, TRIO has fortunately had a funding source so that our professionals can get training. And so they are broken down in priorities. And so the U.S. Department of Education has identified specific training areas that if to be a successful TRIO project, then you should have some specific trainings. And so, for example, if you're a new director, they have new director training, which is priority 6. And there's a total of 6 priorities. So priority 1 is related to evaluation. So these are basically topics that are important for TRIO professionals. And so they go through the same competition that all other TRIO programs go through. But their job is to provide training to you all as professionals in TRIO. And so basically, what we found out is that some of the providers of some of the priorities, or even just in general providers, actually receive cancellation letters on Friday as well.
Okay, yes, so definitely I think uh, so the training grants, and then Teresa, I was told again, everything is, actually I think COE might have, where did I get this from? I got it from somebody. Oh, somebody who's a director of a training grant. I won't officially let the name, but put on Facebook that they were told that it was directly related to the quality of personnel section response in the training grants.
Oh, wow.
They couldn't say for sure for the upward bound programs, but that's what she said. Okay, so I know it's a she, but so it's hearsay, but it tends to match with what was, and this is a trusted source. This is someone I would say, okay, she would know, you know. Um, and so that's why I remember you and I were talking about this earlier, and I said, Teresa, I think we're going to have a really hard time for both Talent Search and EOC responding to this question, which used to be a slam dunk before. And the more we layered on the disadvantaged and the low income and the, looking for specific types of students based on ethnic and minority backgrounds, it was a slam dunk. I mean, we were encouraged, I think, almost, would have lost points if we didn't stress that. And then all of a sudden, now it's a 180, like, oh no, you have to stay away from that. And so I met with Teresa. I said, I really need your help. I've got to rewrite this section. And she helped me a lot with the this is mainly the information that you helped us come up with in making the transition. It's unfortunate that if this was already in people's training grants responses and a similar question, to get the rules changed, after the fact, right? Is I wish they would say, well, we're going to give you 30 days to clean this up. Okay, we can do that. So knowing that, I wanted to spend some time talking about that with y'all here in a second. But let's see, let me answer a couple of questions here. And actually let me Teresa, there's a question about the CPPs. Any ideas on what the CPPs could be? And we've talked about this before. I think we have a post that either Leah or Donna can please put in the chat, but I'm going to let Teresa handle that because she's also helping us tremendously with what those could be.
Okay, I'll respond in the chat, but I'll also come back and say something as soon as I pull up the information.
Yes, okay, because we're working with some that were tentative and then some that were being commented on. So we want to make sure we get you the best information. And also we're going to repost or, put in chat the post that of the exact language and the federal document that says, okay, this is what they might be. But the problem is, Teresa, not the problem, but, there's such broad titles that initially when you see the titles, I mean, of what they could be, it's not enough and we won't know the details. So for example, I think Teresa was one on, I can't remember.
Choice of schools is one of them.
School choice is one of them. So how the heck are they going to fill in on the final application? What additional steps are they going to add on to that, saying something like, well, the secretary is looking for projects that will do this, this, and this, and this. So that's the part that we're missing.
Okay, I can talk about the 3.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one of them is expanding educational choice. So again, just as Lisa just said, that's it, and these are, let me just tell you where this came from. And the link has been provided to everyone. But basically, the Federal Register published back in May some potential supplemental priorities. And this actually occurs with all new administrations where they identify supplemental priorities that they feel are important for the work that they do. in this instance, the Department of Ed. And then basically when they're funding projects or, putting out their notice inviting applicants, they usually have some type of, they usually pull from these supplemental priorities to create the competitive preference priorities. And so, as was said, one of them is expanding educational choice. And so, of course, we're having a little bit of difficulty. We're really identifying what might be an example of that for TRIO, particularly as Talent Search and EOC in this instance. There was another one on evidence-based literacy instruction. So, we could parlay that over to some evidence-based type related to literacy, but that's not the main scope of Talent Search and EOC. It's really about dissemination of information. So there may be some way of leveraging that. And again, the post actually has some examples that are provided to you. And then the third one is returning education to the states. So again, what are the implications for TRIO? It may be related to partnerships and some things of that sort, but ultimately we really we're not very confident in what it is that we're parlaying those over to that would equate to competitive preference priorities. I will also add that, just looking at the competitions that I've been involved in that are federally related over the last couple of months, one of the ones in one of the hearings with the U.S. Department of Ed, there was a conversation that spoke specifically to um, programs that TRIO programs have been funded. The existing programs have a competitive edge because they keep getting funded. So therefore, it's more difficult for new programs to get funded. And so I have seen where there have been additional points. I'm sorry, that one of the competitive preferences was specifically around um, a program that does not exist. So it wasn't TRIO, it was a different U.S. Department of Ed program. And then it seemed like there was one more that I've seen that may potentially be one for TRIO. But again, all of this is speculation. We just don't know at this point. And the biggest piece is we tend to, what I know I learned from Lisa when I, was a director, and when I started writing grants, was a lot of the time we write the CPP last because we're writing the grant, like as you can see, this timeline is built out for you to be writing a grant and over across multiple months. And so the CPPs really don't come into play until the final notice of inviting applicants to apply. That doesn't come out, so there's really no need to try to write to that until you actually get the actual questions.
Yep. So Teresa, you're being super nice. I'm going to say, don't think about those. Get started on those other sections and then worry about when you find out what they are, fitting it back in. And there are possible implications here that it just speculation, right, Teresa, on what I'm sharing with you right now. If it is going to be evidence-based literacy instruction, then possibly something like this, possible implications for TRIO. So we put something like projects should highlight evidence-based literacy supports, particularly in middle school and high school, using practices validated by What Works Clearinghouse or peer review studies, expanding educational choice. Proposals could strengthen competitiveness by showcasing partnerships with alternative education providers, promoting dual enrollment or increasing career-aligned pathways, and returning to the states. Partnerships with state agencies or alignment with state level priorities may become more critical. Proposals could be favored, could be if endorsed or coordinated with these bodies. So there's a way, but we don't know what they want us to do. It's hard to say, even if we could, Teresa, say, these are the ones for sure. It's not going to help us until we find out on the program application when it comes out exactly how they want projects to focus on, or what part of that, because that's such a broad, wide category. This is just pure speculation on how they could possibly make a connection between what we could possibly do, right, Teresa? And so just, it's good to think about it, but put it away and start knocking out the rest of this proposal. Anything else you want to add to that, Teresa?
No, you said it spot on. You're spot on with what you said.
And it's just that, I get it. People keep going back to, back to it, right? Back to it. And I'm like, okay, here it is. Just think about it, or give it to your bosses, give it to your grant writer, but we got to move on and get the rest of not the rest, the narrative on its own is worth all the majority of the points. And of course, these will be worth something and also something to consider. And then more so of an issue after you get funded to make sure that you go ahead and promote this, right? So yeah, if you didn't receive your UB I don't think anybody has received their GAN. Unless they're SSS, Teresa. I think that's what I finally have come to fruition. So you're not alone. And if you have anybody out there who's received, you can anonymously send me a chat. I won't let people know, like I'm gonna barge you, but I don't think anyone has received their GAN. So you're okay. And Teresa, I was just talking to someone earlier in Talent Search. And I asked her, I said, can you look back to see when you received your GAN last year? And she looked, she goes, oh, I got it like on August 8th. So we're really not that far behind. It just seems like it because it's such a focus. It's such a big deal. There's such a spotlight. We're more stressed out about it, but it's really not the latest it's ever been when things have been quote unquote normal, Teresa, if you can remember. There have been times where it's to the wire for whatever reason, you know?
Correct.
Go ahead.
And we talked a little bit about this last week. You definitely, COE did provide some guidance. I believe it was last week. They did a session talking more about this. But definitely, if you have not had a conversation with your supervisor, HR, you really do need to have those hard conversations. And understanding, is the university going? Because what we're hearing is that they will be released by September 1st. So some institutions may not be willing to wait until September the 1st. And so just make sure that you're talking through your chain of command to let them know what's going on, which hopefully you've already been transparent about everything, and just understanding what does that mean for your staff, and things of that sort as you continue to wait. And is your institution going to carry you all through after September the 1st if for whatever reason they come out August 31st or something like
Yeah,
that?
it could be. And yeah, and EOC, those of you have been with EOC, you didn't find out until last time. And, I mean, a lot of times you guys don't find out until like the September, in the middle of September. And when you guys got refunded, y'all didn't find out until the end of September, almost beginning of October, Teresa. I remember that headache.
Yeah.
That was that was a hot mess,
Lisa, the difference between, I remember being in those situations, and the university was very friendly toward it, very friendly toward Trio. But the difference this time is there's been such a spotlight on Trio and it not getting funded, or even in the hearings, the U.S. Department of Education hearings and things of that sort, or when they participated in the hearings, there's not always been positive things about Trio said, and so it's very politicized, and so that is why the conversation feels different, I believe, for some people this time, just because there's been such a spotlight put on Trio and the continuation of Trio.
Yes, and agencies, institutions. I know that one institution in particular kind of gave, when the camp grants didn't get initially, they said it's a delay. So for example, one university said, okay, that's fine, we'll float you because we're pretty sure we have enough money to do for a month or two. They're still waiting for their GAN. So they had to unfortunately say, sorry. So now here comes Trio, and they got a bunch of Trio programs, and they're like, we're not going to do this again. So they've been proactive. The institution has already issued letters saying, if we don't get a GAN by the 31st, your positions are terminated. And see, so they wouldn't have done that in other years, thinking and knowing that the money would be there. It's a different sort of climate. So
Uh-oh,
I'm here.
it
Um,
looks like we lost Lisa.
yeah, it appears so. Hmm.
Looks like she's coming back.
And while we're waiting on Lisa to come back,
I'm
I just
back.
looked at, is she back?
I'm back. Can you?
Okay, great, great.
It's at 12:30 every Monday, Donna. I've been tracking it. So, for a second there. So it just was obvious this time around. But thanks, Teresa. I'm going to turn off my video just to maybe save some whatever. Can y'all still hear me and see me or hear me?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Teresa. Sorry about that. Anyway. Monday. So yeah, so the climate, it's not as accommodating the colleges as we got your back, and it's a tough time, So we have a question here before I get into the numbers ago. Okay. Got a new partnership with a community-based organization, CBO, that hasn't worked with Trio before. How can we build reviewer confidence? Well, here's the good news. The good news is you don't have to say that you've done anything with them in the past. It can be what you're planning on doing. Now, if you have had a great relationship, then, in the past, they've done this would come up in a couple of places here. In the plan of operation, where you talk about how you're going to coordinate with other projects in the target area or target schools or that are working with talent search and EOC eligible participants. You briefly mentioned it there. But over here in the applicant community support section, you want to go ahead and stress the what they're going to be giving you more so than collaboration, but you can display it as being collaborative. What will you provide? What will they provide? But it's really about what will they provide. And you see, I'm speaking about the future tense here. It would be best if you could say that they're currently doing this, but if there hasn't been a relationship there, I don't think you need to highlight that. Look, it's our first time dealing with these folks. Just go ahead and put there the plan for them to provide you with services. Now, what you want to do for sure, though, is you want to make sure you have the letter of commitment on file, and that you say, we have a letter of commitment on file for the following community-based agencies that will be providing in-kind and direct support to the project in the following ways. But notice that I said we have a letter of commitment on file already. I lost points, Teresa, because I said I will get a letter of commitment. So that's the big difference. And they lost points there. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, but
Yeah, so, basically, Lisa's correct, just basically it's really about the plan more than anything else. And so if you build out a strong plan and you respond to the question, then you're more than likely to garner all your points in that area.
Yes, so it's about the plan, and you also want to make sure that you state that you have a letter of commitment on file. So you can always say, here's the plan, but I got the letter to back up the plan. That's the big difference. So thank you for bringing that up. There was also in the chat, someone asked, kind of going back and forth here, if there's any recourse for those programs that have been canceled. And that's what COE covered in their meeting. I believe there's some talk of a lawsuit, Teresa, I think possibly getting gathering, but those take time. So anyway, we'll keep you posted as soon as we hear anything regarding that. And someone asked about the YouTube channel. Sorry, Teresa, I interrupted you.
Go ahead.
Oh, someone asked about the where are all our recordings? They don't see them in the Google Drive. They're not in the Google Drive, the recordings. The recordings are on our YouTube channel, which I believe has a link has been put there in the chat. And also, whenever we go ahead and let you know that the latest recording is available, we go ahead and post it on our blog. And we do remind you that previous recordings are on the YouTube channel. And also, here's the link. So we go ahead and remind you of that there. So they're not in the Google Drive, but you can get them through the YouTube channel. Were you going to say something, Teresa? I felt like I cut you off.
I wasn't aware. It looks, because I'm not directly, at the university anymore. But it sounds in the chat. There's a few people who said that they did get calls from their program officer regarding their numbers, and so usually that sounds like they're working on something. So that's good to hear. I wasn't aware of that. So at least two programs had gotten communication from their program officers about their numbers, asking them about numbers.
Okay, that's interesting. And Eileen, check to see when you got your GAN the year before, because yeah, somebody told me that last year they got their GANs in July, but then they looked the year before, they're like, oh yeah, we got the third week of August the week before, so it fluctuates, right?
Yes,
So
it does.
yeah, so some of us I think received them earlier last year. So that's another reason why, if you remember the last time, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, and then you realize, well, take another year back. Oh yeah, I didn't get it till August, is what some people are realizing. So again, fingers crossed. Right now, I don't know about the details of the recourse. If a program is canceled, I imagine there's going to be a battle there. Because you know, you really can't change the rules after it's been turned in, right? You got to give me 2 weeks, give me 2 days, and we'll refine it. And we didn't know we were following, and that's why it takes me back to this. What I wanted to share with you on in the time we have left, about 10 minutes here, I wanted to talk to you all about, and I'll just show this. You can see the slide, right? I'm not going to show the presentation mode because I don't want to mess up with my internet. Can y'all see that slide?
Yes.
Okay. So this slide here, this is something you don't have in your Google Drive, okay? Because this is something that we provide our clients that attend our grant writing workshops, either the course or the live webinar on demand. But I'm going to share it with y'all. It's being recorded so you could see the slide, but here's a little freebie here. The quality of personnel section that is bugging me the most, or I think has caused the most headache, or perhaps, you know, third, you know, this is not a direct quote or just speculation. Someone did say that it looks like the grants that were canceled had something to do with this part of the quality of personnel question that is appropriate to their, you know, upward bound or their SSS grant. And now in our Talent Search and EOC. EOC and Talent Search, we do have the same quality of personnel section. And here we have this question very similar in both. It's question 3, the plan to employ personnel who have succeeded in overcoming the disadvantages of circumstances like those of the population of the target area. It's worth 3 points. So it's basically asking you to explain, how does the agency or college identify, recruit, and hire individuals similar to Talent Search eligible students to serve as project staff? So the focus needs to be on identifying qualified individuals with demonstrated experience supporting low-income potential first-generation college students. Teresa, I think I might even be aware of using those words now moving forward. You know, I thought they might be a trigger, but now I've seen they've been directly in a direct impact. So moving forward, I might encourage folks to say supporting Talent Search or EOC eligible students. Would you agree, or would you
Yes.
take it?
Yes, definitely. So so one of the things that Lisa and I were involved in is we were actually looking at old TRIO proposals and other federally funded proposals to just kind of identify some of those trigger words. If they run it through artificial intelligence, what are those trigger words? I'm sure most of you all have pretty much heard about that back in February, March. And so one of the things that we began to do is really just focus on, like, for example, Talent Search eligible students. So early on in the proposal, we define that using the regulations, we define what TRIO eligibility is, and therefore our Talent Search or EOC eligibility is, and then we specifically say low income and potential first generations college students, and we just continue to use that language throughout the proposal. But if you want to shorten it a little bit, once you've defined it, and you want to define it at the beginning within each of your sections. But you know, once you've defined low income and potential first generation, then Talent Search eligible is pretty much what you would continue to use in your proposal. One, it shortens the words, but it also stays focused on who we should be focused on in our programs. But the piece here is in regards to this particular section, you know, I know that I wrote a lot about when I was responding to this about all the things that we would do and the activities we would. I'm sorry, all of the types of people we were trying to recruit that were not necessarily low income and first gen, but people who had overcome barriers and disadvantages and just going on and on and on about that. And so now just, you want to keep it a little bit more cleaner. And what Lisa's suggesting here is where you're keeping it a lot more cleaner, where you're specifically focused on low income and first gen students or people who have worked with, because experience is much more important. And qualification are very important, but qualifications are, I'm sorry, I got that all mixed up. The most qualified candidates is one of the most important criteria here. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Teresa. And you're absolutely right. So, this means identifying qualified individuals, and you can still mention perhaps low income because they are in the regulations, and potential first generation college students who were once upon a time or have a strong understanding of these challenges faced by these folks that are low income and potential first generation. So instead, we've changed it to a statement that you can include, or can say that you include, that applicants with demonstrated success supporting individuals facing financial and educational barriers are strongly encouraged to apply. So see how that's based on the issues faced by a person, no matter what their ethnicity or minority background could be. It's more focused on the experience, that they have qualified experience. So again, utilizing alumni networks, professional associations, institutions serving students from economically or educationally challenging backgrounds to find candidates with relatable experiences could be one way to do that. We've also got recruitment strategies. These are things that you're going to have to explain in this question. You just can't say and put out your equal opportunity statement policy. What are you going to do about recruiting these folks that have similar backgrounds to Talent Search eligible and EOC eligible? How are you going to recruit them? And there's certain ways that you can try to recruit. I have a couple of bullets here on how you're going to recruit them. Just like how would you recruit Talent Search and EOC eligible participants? And then how are you going to select them? How are you going to select these students? These applicants, the best qualified. And like Teresa said, the emphasis on qualification of that person. So this is where, again, it's always been a challenge with HRs to say, well, we have our specific hiring process. Okay, yes, but can some of those, qualitative, when they're being interviewed, and the assessment, the qualitative assessment of the people interviewing that candidate, isn't it documented somewhere? Isn't there some sort of point system? Can there possibly be a way to include additional questions to gauge their resilience, their problem-solving skills, to give them an opportunity to share how, in addition to being qualified, they also have the experience working with or having gone through educational and financial barriers as well. And Teresa, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but that's how we're kind of formatting, trying to come up with a detailed response, but that does not go ahead and focus on what we used to focus on.
These bullets here are great examples of what you would want to use. So I don't have anything to add, but those bullets are exceptional bullets.
Okay. Well, they should, because you came up with most of them. So
Oh, okay. Oops.
hey, that's where it came from. I said, hey, help me with this. We need to, yeah, it's been a while. It's been almost a year since we started working on them, but yeah, I'm glad you like them because of your stuff. Remember, I paid you for them. So I'm going to use them. But this is why, hey, we all need consultants, y'all. Let me tell you, I said, and didn't I not tell you? You said, Lisa, how can I help you in this competition? I said, Teresa, I got dinged for that darn activity timeline in the plan of operation. Help me provide an activity timeline that's not 6 pages long, but at least gives the reader enough information. And the other thing I told her, I said, I need help with this quality of personnel section, because half of it I know is just, if I turned it in the way we had turned it in, they'd all get canceled. Yeah. Whereas before it was touted, oh, this is so great, comprehensive, we love it, to all of a sudden, no, you got to revamp that whole thing. And I was like, Teresa, I need your help revamping. Someone put personal experience with a TRIO project or from a background similar to program participants. Yes. Yes. So most of us, maybe that's why not everybody got canceled. I think most of us stuck to that language, but I did see, and you and I both saw when we were reviewing old not old proposals that has been submitted, and we were like, oh no, this was too much about preference for something that wasn't based on qualifications. I think, you know, it's a fine line, is it not?
Yes.
Sometimes how you word it. So anyway, so please think about that, because I think this is the section that might have gotten some folks canceled because it was too much the other way, which had been applauded and encouraged, and maybe taken to the next level. So dust off your current quality of personnel section and look at that last question, question number 3, and see how it's reading now. Okay, take it, you know, take it through the list of words that we have uploaded in both the EOC and Talent Search Google Drive, or I think it's in the main one about trigger words. And also we have a folder on the executive orders. So, you know, check it out and be thinking about that. And again, this is something that you won't have access to, but hey, it's being recorded, so you can see it on the YouTube channel. But it's a little freebie we're giving you. But if you would join us and attend our either live set, well, or we're not going to do any live ones until later when we find out what the final RFP is, or the program application. In the meantime, we have them on demand, but I would strongly recommend you sign up for the WIC course, where you can do it on your own speed. And like I said, it has resource materials there. And it's just something I think that, you know, this is just this is just one of the slide decks that you get with that, along with the recording and some other to-do lists and quizzes too as well. Okay. So let's see here. Do we have any other questions here? Let's see. Q&A, anything? No, I don't see anything else. Okay, y'all. Well, I'm sorry that I'm sorry that I got kicked out of my own meeting. Gosh, thanks a lot. Internet issues again. And then I'm going to have to end this meeting a little early this week to get ready for another meeting that I cannot be, and fix my internet, I guess. But I'm going to stop sharing here. And I want to thank you all for joining us this week. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Leah and Donna. And you'll be getting a notification, or we'll post in our blog that, you know, where this will be available, which will be on the YouTube channel. But just give that, check out the Google Drive with the resources, and also information about our other services as well. For those of you that have carryover and are trying to spend down, we do offer a lot of allowable services as well. So let's see here. Any other questions? Thank you, Teresa. We'll talk. Oh, it started up again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Teresa.